Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
At a moment when trust in government is closely tied to how work actually gets done, the National Academy of Public Administration is treating recognition as more than a ceremony. We'll talk about why NAPA is making celebrating the American public servant a year-long effort and what they're learning about durability, trust, and service across every level of government with James Christian Blockwood, President and CEO of the Academy. James Christian, thank you so much for joining me. It's lovely to have you back on the show.
Terry, thanks so much. And, I must admit, I'm a frequent listener. And when I go and want to learn about what's happening in management, I do turn into your show. So thank you for doing this.
I so appreciate it. And thank you for joining me during Public Service Recognition Week. One of the things about this week, we love it. It focuses our attention on the work that public servants do, but it concentrates it into a single week. NAPA's got an ongoing campaign for the year that celebrates the American public servant. Talk to me about why you wanted to extend a campaign for an entire year.
Let me start with saying, public servants provide so much to the country, and they're generally underappreciated, undervalued, and most people don't really know what these public servants are doing for us and on our behalf. So it really shouldn't be something that's relegated to a week, but something that we appreciate always. And the Academy really recognizes, one, because of our elected fellows, many of them are public servants, or two, because of the public servants that we interact with or partner with, that work should be uplifted and recognized throughout the entire year. And so the Celebrating the American Public Servant is a national initiative. It's not just one single event. It's not just something that's part of a single point in time. It brings together the Academy Fellows, our partner organizations, some award programs, and the broader public service community, really to shine a light on people who dedicate their careers to making government work better.
One of the things that's really interesting about it, there are some awards, but you've got a lot of other facets to this. You've got storytelling, research, convenings, and as you said, partners. How are you trying to use this campaign to change how we talk about public service?
Yeah, if we take a step back and think about the last year, year and a half, the country really has been having national dialogue about government and not policy, government management and operations and how our public servants serve the American people. And this effort really has three components to it. First, it's to really celebrate public servants. There's an initiative, 250 public service champions, that we worked with Local 250 to help implement across the country. And it's just incredible. We identified 250 public service champions with the help of friends, neighbors, communities, people across the country to just see what public servants are doing in communities that they serve, but people may not have known what they were doing. And it's just incredible. We are highlighting town managers, city administrators, fire chiefs, waste management and water treatment officials, public administrators from schools, just so many public servants from across the country. And so that was the first part, is it's a real recognition initiative of how do we uplift those that are serving our country. The second piece is a research effort. It's looking at what government has done for 250 years to get us to where we are now and what it needs to do for the next 250 years to make sure we're thriving. And we've partnered with a number of different institutions, but one in particular is the Bridge Alliance, to start a Fellows for Democracy and Public Service. It's grant-supported research that looks at interviews and convenings and talks about a wide range of issues, from how do you get young people into public service to addressing challenges in the primary system and representation in Congress, many different issues. But it's doing the research and bringing in data to look at what have we done in the past, what do we need to do in the future to be better and better serve the American public. And then this final piece really is about a national gala. It's not necessarily the culminating part of it, because we want this to be a year-long celebration, but it will be an incredible part of it. June 22nd, it'll be at the Library of Congress. It'll be a remarkable event. We'll bring together 6 of the most prestigious public service award programs and honorees in the country to hear their stories. We'll have keynotes from public servants talking about why they serve and why it's important to continue to serve. And then really it'll just be a celebration. We'll have a public exhibit for people to view the history of public service over the last 250 years, and with a section that focuses on the future, what they should and can expect going forward. And so it's just a real celebration and an opportunity to really highlight all the good work public servants are doing.
James Christian Blockwood is President and Chief Executive Officer of the National Academy of Public Administration. James Christian, one of the things I always loved about NAPA was you look at public service not just at the federal level, but at state and local and community levels as well. And as you talked about that local government 250, what has been the response there, and what are you learning about the impact of this recognition on the lives of those folks that you called out?
I mean, it's just a lot of gratitude. These are people that go to work every day, head down, aren't really looking for recognition. And so when they get the surprise recognition, they're obviously very thankful. And there are people who maybe not expect that, but certainly deserve it. And you're right. There was a particular focus on local government. You know, oftentimes, especially here in Washington, we talk about the federal government and things that are happening at Congress or the White House. But government really has many different levels to it. And quite frankly, the parts of government that touch American lives every day are those that are closest to the community and those that are at the local level. So highlighting those people was really important for us to do. And, you know, what happens at the federal level does tend to have an impact of what happens at the state and local level. So things that you may see or things that may change at the federal level, oftentimes it's the state and local officials that have to account for differences in services or make up for maybe some deficiencies that are occurring. And so it's really important to make sure that those state and local officials kind of get their due recognition for all the work that they're doing on our behalf.
Many of these initiatives touch directly on trust and trust in government. Lots of surveys show trust in government is highest at the closest level to the people who are responding. But are you seeing any connections between highlighting and sharing about accomplishments of great work in the public sector with rising levels of trust?
Well, I don't have any empirical data to support that, but you know what I've seen and just kind of anecdotally in some of the conversations that I've had is when people understand how government serves them and they understand that better, then trust actually goes up. People start talking about why they appreciate government and how that actually impacts their lives. And I think when people know who's serving them, so it's your neighbor, it's your friend, it's someone that you see maybe daily or weekly, then there's the idea that there's more reason that those people might be trustworthy. And so the idea would be, yes, we have a trust deficiency and a huge gap that we need to repair. Probably has to start at where it's strongest, to your point, at the local level and then build up. But there's real opportunity to do that. And I think highlighting first and foremost where things are working well and how people are being well served is a very good start. And then I think maybe looking at part of that research initiative that I talked about and thinking about how do we reimagine government? How do we think about the design of government and the services? How can they be improved? How can they be better? And then how can we bring the public along? That's another way to really help build trust. So the overall initiative, we haven't necessarily seen the data that show, you know, that trust is increasing, but we do know that trust is higher at the local levels where it's more felt, and that there's real opportunity for that to really have a good positive effect on government more broadly all the way up to the federal level.
As you're rolling through this campaign, and you talked about the variety of products, research, recognition, the gala, are you finding any particular modes of communication or messages that especially resonate?
What I really like about this, I encourage people to come to our website at www.napawash.org, NAPAWASH.org, to learn more about some of the things that we're finding and seeing. But this is what's incredible. It really is to see across our country. If you go into any search engine of your choice and just put 250 public service champions, what comes back are local newspapers that have written up what those officials are doing in their community, a lot of different social media posts, not necessarily from the honoree themselves, but from people in their community and people that they have served, really just having a lot of appreciation and showing their recognition. And then there's dialogue and conversation happening as well. So it's in many different media and different forms, and that's something that's just great to see.
A year-long campaign is hard enough to sustain on its own, but as you're going through this, are there parts of what you're doing now that you hope become durable, that outlast the campaign?
I think the constant focus on improvement, continuous improvement is how we get stronger as a nation. And that research component that looks at reimagining government, what a great time to do that, to look at when we're having a national dialogue about how government serves us, but how do we really prepare ourselves for the next 250 years? And that's something that I don't think we should just do at any point in time, at any moment. We should be building that into the culture of how we serve, into the culture of government. So one thing that I'd probably like to see that really outlast just this single initiative would be an appreciation for how do we continuously look at ways to improving how we serve the American people? And then maybe one other thing that I would add, it's just been so incredible to see this outpouring of support for public servants. Let's not just relegate that to a week during Public Service Recognition Week or even a one point in time or an event. Let's try to do that every day. So if you're the American public and you know that people are serving you well, say thank you and make sure that they know that you appreciate the work that they're doing on their behalf.
Well, you've been a public servant your entire life, so I will return the favor and say thank you for all that you've done and continue to do for public servants across the country. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, and it's a great privilege.
James Christian Blockwood is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the National Academy of Public Administration. We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Subscribe to the Federal Drive wherever you get your podcasts.